Good morning, everyone. Good evening, good afternoon, wherever you are, and welcome to the Weekly Energy Boost. My name is Elisheva, and I'm here this morning with David.
Hello.
And we are here to share with you the secrets to plugging in to that force that we talk about here and there on the Weekly Energy Boost. We titled this show Dialing God, but what we're really talking about here is tapping into that infinite power within each one of us, harnessing it and using it for good. We can't make this stuff up. This topic is planned millennia in advance for this week's energy, and I think due to the current state of affairs in our world, it couldn't be better timed. I saw a lot of comments from people on the preview post saying, wow, perfect timing, we need this. And again, this is not something that we chose. This is something that is a universal energy, and that's really what we do here on the Weekly Energy Boost is we get together every week to share with our listeners the spiritual energy forecast of the coming 7 days, and through that end up sharing secrets, wisdom, tools, and approaches that can help us not only this week to tap into the good and to protect ourselves from any potential pitfalls, but also really those powerful life lessons last us for always.
Those of you who are new watching us for the first time, Kabbalah is ancient universal wisdom that explains the secrets of the human soul. So a person from any background, any religious or spiritual affiliation will benefit from understanding Kabbalah, and you're going to get answers. You're going to get answers to the why of life. So today we're going to give a system. We're going to give a system of how to pray. I think it's something that people ask all the time. We're trying to make prayer cool again and relevant. And understanding that actually it's one of the most powerful ways to tap into expansion of your vessel and allow certain energies and answers to come in. It's actually the secret of divine inspiration, because divine inspiration Kabbalistically is you connecting to the frequency of the truth, you being able to see the future. We all would like to see the future. We all would like clarity about how to make decisions in life. We all would like
not the kind of future that you project your fears into and that you see, it happened before, so it's going to happen again. We're talking about the real reality here, the real truth.
Correct. And to be tapped in, because there are infinite pathways you can take, and there's one optimal one, and that one is led by your soul. So by learning how to pray every day in a powerful way, in a unique way, and prayer, it's the kind of prayer that's most likely different than most of us have been raised to think. You now have a tool, a weapon by which you can craft the most powerful path for yourself every day and avoid pitfalls, avoid unnecessary chaos and challenges. It's the GPS. It's really going to be the GPS of how to get to your destination safely.
I think that the challenge around having a conversation about prayer, and even, I know David doesn't like the word God, but many of us were raised with a preconceived notion or programming or scarring, if you'd like to call it, around what it means to be religious, what religion is. And from a Kabbalistic point of view, the essence of prayer, or the essence of any spiritual connection, is why am I doing it? That's the first. I remember my teacher, Rav Berg, saying repeatedly in times of community prayer gathering, saying, if you'd rather be playing golf, go play golf, because if you're not here desiring to be here and present here, you're not going to get anything from it. And I think that that's the first. We're not here to say you need to pray or you must pray, or if you're going to be, we're not going to give you even the script.
Right.
The fact that this week is inviting us to strengthen our own connection to source, to our own soul, the light of the Creator within each one of us. We want to share that opportunity, how to do it, what are some of the best practices, and even for those of us, one of the great things about, I think for me, when I came to study Kabbalah, one of the things that appealed to me the most is the teacher at the front of the classroom saying, listen, you have to try this stuff for yourself.
Right.
If it works for you, stick with it. If it doesn't, toss it. Kabbalah is not all or nothing. I've had people come up to me and say, well, what if I don't believe in reincarnation? That's fine.
Happens all the time in my
Right.
classes. I don't believe in this. I don't believe in that. That's great. That's totally fine.
The opposite, that I believe that part of growing up, part of being a mature person is knowing what my truths are. And what I've seen in my years of teaching is that Kabbalah can be a big part of that if you're open to it.
Absolutely. Probably the most powerful class that we teach in Kabbalah 1. I think I teach it in class 5 or 6 of Kabbalah 1, which, I'm a fan of Kabbalah 1 being the most powerful course that we teach. We learn about prayer, and it's a mind-blowing class because everyone's skeptical. Everyone kind of gives you that face about what are you going to say? What are you going to tell me to do? And the way we explain it that I love about Kabbalah is that the Creator or God is an infinite, unchanging, everlasting force. So that energy is always there. And we, as human beings, as souls in this world, we have the free will to connect or disconnect from that energy. This energy doesn't punish ever. So whenever you feel pain, no one's doing anything to you. No one's actually hurting you. It might look like someone's hurting you. It might look like someone's suing you. It might look like someone's trying to take something from you. Or
make you feel this way or that.
Exactly, or cheat on you or betray you. That's what it looks like in this physical world. But that pain that you feel is simply as a result of something I did yesterday, 5 minutes ago, 5 years ago, that disconnected me from the source, the light of the Creator.
The metaphor that the Kabbalists give again and again and again is the light force of the Creator is like the sun. If I put up an umbrella between me and the sun, that doesn't mean the sun isn't shining.
Right.
If I choose to sit under the shade of a tree, it doesn't mean the sun isn't shining. If I put solar panels on my roof, that doesn't mean I'm turning on the light.
Right.
It's there for us to tap into. And, you don't have to ask the sun to turn on.
Right.
Prayer is not
energy's
about...
always there.
Right. I think that's one of the first myths to debunk is that the sun doesn't need us to pray for it. Right. The Creator doesn't need us to ask and isn't waiting for us to ask in order to bestow anything on us. It is this free-flowing frequency that's out there, and it's up to us to create the best conduit. We're the ones plugging the appliances in, but it's flowing whether we use it or not.
10 years ago, I gave a talk just like this at a big church, Catholic church, and an 80-year-old woman came up to me and said, for the first time in all my years of Catholicism, I now understand what God is. And it helped enhance her connection to her religion. So the most important thing to understand is that the Creator, when we talk about the Creator, God, or the light, we're talking about universal energy that we all can tap into. We're going to share some tools today of how to tap into that. So what do we share in this class of Kabbalah 1? We share the idea that prayer for a lot of people is this idea that when I'm uncomfortable, when do people pray? When I'm uncomfortable, I'm in a situation I don't like, I'm in some form of pain.
Desperation.
Maybe desperation if it's gotten to that. So I'm now going to ask that the Creator change himself to make my life more convenient. That's the way most people...
Painful.
Huh?
Or less painful.
Or less painful, right? So I don't like the situation. Creator, I'm going to sit right here, Creator. I'm not moving. I'm asking you to change 7 billion people to make life more convenient for me. That's how most people look at prayer. That's the way we've been conditioned. Kabbalists say something totally different. Kabbalists say prayer is the methodology and the most powerful weapon to transform my own vessel so that I can connect with the light of the Creator by the law of affinity. So we use prayer to actually transform ourselves. We use prayer to transform our frequency because that's the only reason we're in pain. The only reason we're in pain is because our frequency does not have affinity with the Creator's frequency. Because as soon as it does, the pain goes away, the darkness goes away, the anxiety goes away, the stress goes away. No one's causing you stress. Stress is a result of mind not connecting to the light of the Creator. So that's another understanding of prayer that people get excited about. And they realize, wait a minute, it's so frustrating to ask the Creator to take my problems away. That's kind of stupid because the problems are there for a reason to transform you.
Not only that, but I think when people pray for something and they don't get it, they feel like they're being punished or God isn't listening. Or I think that's what makes, I have seen in my in my line of work. I have seen many people who stop believing in God because their prayers don't work.
Right.
They ask for somebody to be healed or something to happen, and when it doesn't happen, they feel like they're not being heard by God, and therefore that whole system just doesn't work, or it's faulty, or it's a hoax.
Totally. All right, let's get down to it. So basically, if we were talking about this in the car as we were driving through the remnants of the purge, apparently, where we were
really
coming.
Scary.
It was pretty intense. We were talking about this in the car, and if we had to break down the system that Elisheva and I use, and our teachers and our students use, we broke it down into 3 simple concepts.
Wait, before we get to the 3 simple concepts, I think we need to distinguish for everybody. There's scripted prayer and unscripted prayer.
That's correct.
So we want to make sure you guys, we understand. Right now we're talking about unscripted prayer.
Okay. Scripted prayer are Kabbalistic sequences that were given 5,000 years ago that are used till today and are incredibly powerful, and they
we'll
open
talk
gates.
about them later.
Yeah. Those open gates of energy, those are very special ways to communicate messages. That's not for everybody, but if you know how to use it, you have more power.
And if you're looking for it, we will get to it.
We'll
but
get to
first, what we're talking about now is unscripted prayer.
That anyone can do anytime, regardless of where you are and what's going on.
And by the way, this is different from, we had a show a couple months back about meditation. Meditation, I'm sure you've heard it before. Meditation, well, let's put it the other way. Prayer is when we talk to the Creator. Meditation is when the Creator talks to us. So we're talking about that direction.
Yeah, dialing in,
God.
dialing God. That's
plugging in. We've done previous shows about meditation and the powers behind it, and there's a lot out there today. This morning's show is about the other direction, talking to the Creator, creating that open line of communication.
And we talked about a lot of powerful concepts in the car, and I said to Elisheva, well, how do we simplify this for our audience? Because everything we try to do is to simplify. Take something deep, powerful, and complex and bring it to you in bite-sized form that you can enjoy as you're having your latte Monday morning and say, okay, I can do that. Right? That's the way it's got to be. So 3 steps. First step we said is, and it's going to sound cliche, so please look beyond the cliche in the first step, is the power and the secret of gratitude. Because by default, we are animals. We are like beasts that are constantly looking at what's in it for me? What have I gotten lately? And that creates a condition inside of ourselves that the Kabbalists say is desire to receive for the self alone, which is similar to a black hole. And we have this unending desire or hunger to receive, and we're never fulfilled. What gratitude does, and we'll break it down in a moment, gratitude builds a vessel inside of ourselves that now serves as a foundation to receive energy the rest of the day. If you don't have gratitude, you don't have the vessel. So you can ask, you can pray, you can use all forms of Kabbalistic secrets, but that energy has nowhere to go because the gratitude isn't there, the vessel isn't there. So gratitude, I broke it down into 2 parts. This is how I do it, and I think I got this part of this actually from Karen. Karen Berg gave us this. I think of 5 things that I have gratitude for physically in my life, just 5 blessings. It can be many more if you want, but at minimum 5. And I try to feel the energy of those things. I actually verbally say thank you to that thing. I visualize it and I say thank you. That's what works for me. And then I try to think of 5 qualities, positive qualities I have, because I think we all forget these qualities. And I think that when we're not understanding what those qualities are, we either become depressed or overly arrogant. But if we can be clear about these are 5 great qualities I have, boom, we've now created a foundation, the spiritual foundation to receive more energy. That's step 1.
And by the way, just to clarify, what we're saying is gratitude and appreciation are forms of prayer. That's part of, I think, for me, a game changer, recognizing that the broadcast, what I'm projecting, what I'm the container that I'm creating when I'm appreciative or when I'm grateful for the blessings in my life, the gifts that I have inside me, I create more room for more of those blessings. And, you can take it down, dumb it down to a very low level and say, you as a human being, who do you feel better giving to? Someone who appreciates what you give them or someone who takes you for granted? Right. So what kind of vessel is taking things for granted?
That's right. As soon as you see somebody doesn't appreciate you, you don't want to give. You close up. You feel there's nowhere to give.
So that energy, right? You want to radiate. You don't want to. We're recommending that the beginning of the process for us each day is switching the vibe to look at all I have, look at how powerful, look at how amazing, look at how blessed, and then segue into the second part.
If I had to compare it to something, I just remember that I know for every morning I need to start my day by stretching myself out and breathing and getting the energy flowing. Otherwise, the whole day you just feel like tense and closed up. So a lot of people stretch, a lot of people do yoga, a lot of people do something with their body to open up their body. And we all know what it feels like when you live your day, sit in your car, sit at your desk, walk from here to there, and you're tense and your body's closed up. That's what gratitude is. Gratitude is the stretching of the soul. It's the yoga of the soul, if I may. And it opens the soul up for all the other energy to come in. And if you don't do it, it's not bad. You're not being punished. It's just kind of like not stretching that day. And you just feel like, well, that's not enjoyable to live my day like that. So it's interesting because my chiropractor said, I want you to stretch also before you go to bed, which I'm like, well, why would I stretch before bed? But I realize now if you compare it to gratitude, we're supposed to do gratitude in the morning
and in the
evening before you go to bed because, the soul has a different journey as it elevates when you sleep. So that's number one. Gratitude for the external things, gratitude for the internal things.
Step two.
Step two is self-evaluation. Not self-judgment.
Not self-deprecation.
Not self-deprecation. And not self-mutilation. Not...
flagellation. No, the what David is joking about is that, if the gratitude aspect is the expansion of the vessel, step two is cleaning the vessel, making sure that there isn't anything in the vessel that could be blocking us from receiving more.
Beautiful, beautiful. My teachers used to say, I said, what's one of the most powerful secrets of public speaking? Before we get up and we share this wisdom, or even now we share it on the show, and we're talking during the show, is he used to say right before your classes, do self-evaluation, because what you're doing is you're cleaning some negativity. So maybe think of one or two things that day that you could have done better, or maybe that was negative or reactive.
Or that even that you want to be mindful of. For
Correct.
example, that yesterday you were super impatient. You're basically sitting there saying, I know I can be impatient. I need the support to be more patient, more compassionate. I'm going to be aware of that today.
Correct. And self-evaluation is a couple steps. Number one is find what it is. Number two is to confess it to yourself. So kind of just say it out loud.
I've been impatient.
Today I was impatient with my children. You should say it to yourself.
If it's the first thing you do in the morning, you may be saying, yesterday I was really impatient.
Exactly. It could be yesterday. So you find what it is, you confess it, and then you make a commitment to be different. Very simple. It can be very quick. And every time you do that, Kabbalists say that what happens is when you've done something wrong or negative, a part of the light of your soul that you need for happiness and fulfillment and pleasure gets trapped in the negative side. We call that klipot. It's a phrase that means a shell. It's a shell that wraps around your light, and you no longer have access to this light. And as a result of losing this light, there's problems in life because we need that light. We need that light to have good relationships. We need that life to have abundance, to make deals work out well, for growth, for happiness. Sometimes a person feels sad for no reason. It's because they've lost those sparks of light to the negative side, to the klipot. And we need to rescue those sparks of light. We need to go into the negative side and play like capture the flag, right? It's like a scavenger hunt. We need to extract those sparks of light. And self-evaluation, according to those three steps, find what it is, confess it, and commit to being different, extracts that spark of light, which is essential. So it cleanses us of the negativity, and it reclaims that spark
To
of
me,
light.
it's like if you have I've used this metaphor before, if you have a casserole dish and you've left some of last night's casserole in the dish, you don't have enough space for today's casserole, right? So the self-evaluation is really about removing any of yesterday's gunk
It's the cleansing.
to create space for more light. And that, for me, there is a sense of freeing. I do feel when I do that, go through that process, there is a release, a relief of that
100%.
what's bogging me down, because what ends up happening, you were impatient yesterday, you feel bad all day the day after. You're walking around essentially holding up an umbrella between you and the sun. And you're in the darkness when the sun is radiating, and there's plenty of opportunity to be conducting that sunlight in a better way. And we're really the ones who are holding on to it. So to release that baked on, caked on gunk not only serves us, but it serves everyone around us.
Absolutely. So we got the building phase, which is the gratitude, 2 parts. Gratitude of external things in my life, pick at least 5. Gratitude of internal qualities you have, pick at least 5. Then we have the cleansing phase, which is the self-evaluation. Find out 1 or 2 things that you did that were negative, reactive, selfish, that you're not proud of. Confess it to yourself. Commit to being different. You've now cleaned the vessel. So now we have built a vessel. We have a clean vessel. Step 3 is now you can do the ask. Because now the ask is very powerful. And in the beginning of prayer, I tell students, ask for whatever. Ask for whatever, however. It's important to just get in the habit of asking. Someone wrote a question, do we pray verbally or mentally? And I think it needs to be what you feel comfortable with. A lot of this process is mental. For me, the confession part is verbal, but again, it's under my breath, verbal to myself. So you have to find what you're comfortable with, because that means that's the vibration of your soul. That's what your soul needs. I've also learned in spirituality, if you don't enjoy it at some point, if you don't feel comfortable with it, you'll just stop doing it, right? It's kind of like anything. Mm-hmm. If you don't enjoy it, you're going to stop it. Even if you know it's good for you, you're going to stop it eventually. So this has to be fun and it has to be enjoyable. So you can tweak this any way you want to make it enjoyable for you and sustainable for you.
I want to frame the answer to that question a little bit differently. And this is, again, something we were talking about in on the way over here, is that our internal dialogue throughout the day, whether we realize it or not, is a broadcast to the universe, right? And that's one of the reasons that the Kabbalists teach to start with appreciation, to start with gratitude, is because if that's the seed of your day, there's going to be much better fruit that comes as a result. What ends up happening often is, the alarm wakes, maybe the alarm isn't waking too many people up these days, but the first thought that we have when we wake up in the morning is often dread, hassle, complaining, and without realizing it, that complaining, if we're not starting with gratitude and we're starting with complaining, that too is a form of prayer. That too is a broadcast to the universe that says, you're messing up.
That's beautiful.
You're omitting, you're overlooking me and my story. You're not paying attention. And for those of us that are not necessarily in the habit of spiritual practice or ritual or any kind of structure like the kind we're talking about, that constant internal chatter of negative, who does he think he is? Why is this happening? I can't believe we're doing this again. This guy never shuts up. That negative banter ends up being our prayer. And so we wonder why it feels like we're walking under a cloud. I think about that character there's like the animated character that walks around under a cloud that's raining all day long, right? The universe is basically asking us this week to hone in on what are we broadcasting? Because the purpose of everything that we're sharing is to elevate us, to bring us closer, not physically closer, but closer in qualities, closer in characteristic to our true essence, to weed out the unnecessary or those mindless things that we do that get in our own way. So this week, it may be a little bit harder. And I think, again, with what's going on in the world, there is a lot of reason to maybe the word reason isn't right, but there's a lot of understandable reasoning why you might look outside and say the world has gone to,
Right.
wearing a handbag, or what's wrong with people, or, to criticize certain politicians or decision makers. Do your best this week to broadcast on the other end of the spectrum,
Right.
and see how much more impact you have. You may not be able to pick up the phone and call those people that appear to be making decisions and convince them otherwise, but the world is more powerfully affected by your presence when you're broadcasting like a solar panel, right? Drawing that energy, drawing that light for it to be used in a positive way.
Greg asked the question, what are things we do that make our prayers and meditations not reach the upper worlds? And we've had many classes about
Shows or classes?
Classes and shows. I don't think we've had shows about this, but where we go deeper and explain that there's levels, spiritual levels between us and the upper worlds, that there's actually angels and forces that are gatekeepers from every level. And a master Kabbalist, or a person who is completely pure in their actions and their words and their thoughts, knows how to bypass all of these gates, because it's very hard to reach what the Zohar says is like the king's palace, the inner chamber of the king, which is ultimately where we want, metaphorically, our prayers to go. That's how you know they're being answered. So there's levels, there's spirits, there's angels, because every word that we say creates a spirit. So imagine what Elisheva just said. If you start the day with a negative attitude or negative thoughts or complaining, you create thousands of negative forces that then put themselves between you and the Creator and make it very hard, create this thick wall that you have to break through every time you need something. And truly, the only free will we have in life is our consciousness. We don't have free will, Kabbalistically, about anything else. The things that happen in our lives are already predetermined based on the thoughts, words, and actions we've decided to commit to that day. So your only free will is your consciousness, your thoughts, words, and actions. That is your free will every day, whether that's going to be negative or positive, as we learned it in Kabbalah.
Well, that makes me think of another similar or appropriate concept, that if everything in this world reveals light, right? Everything has a purpose, from the pen in my hand, the cell phone in front of me, to obviously, maybe we can look at human beings and say, okay, human beings have a purpose, animals have a purpose, trees have a purpose, but even inanimate objects have a purpose. The main distinction between the inanimate, the animals, and the vegetable kingdom and humanity is that we have been charged with the ability to bridge the upper and lower worlds.
That's right. That's our free will.
A tree doesn't say, Creator, please let me be a good tree today. The cat, your pet tabby cat, doesn't say, Creator, let me be a conductor, right? Any light that a cat or a tree or a tomato reveals is because that's the purpose for which it was created. We are the ones who get to determine how much light flows through from the upper worlds to the lower worlds. I think that's a hugely powerful position to be in, that we can, through our thoughts, words, and actions, be the bridge between the upper and lower world. So this idea of prayer, or taking conscious time and energy to shift my frequency so that there is a more powerful broadcast, is a huge responsibility.
And not to segue, when we have our show about reincarnation, which we probably need to at some point, it says that one of the reasons why a person reincarnates from the human kingdom to the animal kingdom, right? A person can be a man in this life and then be a dog in the next life. These things actually happen, is because they abused their free will as a human, because they used their free will for the desire to receive it, the self alone, being reactive. So they lose that free will and go into the animal. So the animal kingdom, for example, a dog's correction is to...
They're instinctual, right?
They're instinctual.
If they nuzzle up to you when you had a bad day, it's because that's their instinct. They're not sitting there going, she gave me kibbles yesterday. I really prefer...
They're not having like calculative thoughts about...
Right. Their natural mode is to nurture, right. Let's say, in that they feel your energy and they can't help themselves but snuggle with you. Or if they feel attacked, they can't help themselves but attack back.
Simply, we're saying that dogs don't have free will, and so their correction in that lifetime is maybe to serve you, to make you happy if you're the master, and that's how they correct their soul, and then their soul can come back to the human kingdom after that. That's the whole idea.
That was a bit of a segue.
That's a nice segue because I think we like to sprinkle those things for our listeners to broaden and see really how far Kabbalah can go, and we should have a show that's dedicated to reincarnation. So
which we have before.
Which we have, but we never talked about the dog.
Next.
So the ask, let's go back to the ask. The ask is so powerful because the ask now can be all day long. Once you've done the first 2 steps in the morning, and it's good to close off your day with those 2 steps, but at very minimum the morning, now the asking can be all day long. Can be, Creator, help me with this. Creator, help me with that. You can talk externally or in your mind. You can talk to a creator that you feel is outside you, or a lot of people feel like it's inside their soul, right? So you feel like you're talking to your soul, which is all the same thing. It's whatever you're comfortable with. But that dialogue, that conversation should be happening all day long. I remember one of our colleagues said, if you're talking to people more than you're talking to the creator, that's a problem. and I love that. I always remember that. It was Yosef Yeshurun. So he made a post about that, and I just loved it. So all the time, like, help me with this, help me with that, help me be a better person, help me with my anger, help me not complain today because I know I will. You're going into a meeting, you know your buttons are going to be pushed. Help me have self-composure. Help me see the good. As soon as you start seeing the bad in someone and you don't like it, just ask the Creator to help. That's prayer. So you're always asking for help in you being better, in you having clarity. I spoke to someone recently and they didn't know how to confront. I think in Kabbalah 2, class 1, we talk about how do you confront someone? How do someone hurt you or wronged you or did something that was a problem and you want to confront them? Well, what are the rules? She followed the rules, but still, like, what's next? At that point, I say to the Creator, show me the right time to confront. Guide me, guide my words, guide my thoughts, guide my desires. Every time I don't have clarity, I'm talking to the Creator. So that is the ask. The ask is broad. It should happen all day long. It should happen before you do anything, and you have the permission to do it.
Right. And again, as a reminder, if you're walking around all day saying this sucks, that sucks, he's an idiot, she's an idiot, there is a very definite faucet closing that's going on.
Sure.
And there's a lot of people out there who say, I'm doing all the right things. I'm practicing, I'm meditating, I'm sharing, but the internal conversation all day long is negative, judgy, pessimistic. That's going to turn off the faucet. And the situations that we go through, I think most people maybe before today's show think, well, the last time I prayed, it was when so-and-so was in the hospital. Mm-hmm. Or the last time I prayed was on that holiday. Mm-hmm. Or the last time I prayed was when I was up for a promotion and they were taking a really long time to get back to me.
Didn't have a decision yet.
Exactly. So there's a really interesting conversation that comes up again and again and again in the Zohar about why challenges happen. Mm-hmm. And I read something really beautiful yesterday about this exactly. It says that, imagine you have a really good friend. And when you spend time with them, you just don't want that time to end. You just want the conversation to keep going and going and going. That's like the relationship between us and the Creator. That the Creator wants us to talk all day long. And if we stop talking, it's the challenges that wake us up to open that conversation again. So for me, there's a lot of beauty in that metaphor, the fact that, the Creator and me are buddies, and the Creator doesn't want me to go away for too long or take space. Or I'm sure all of us have had those evenings where we're spending with our partner or a good friend or a sibling or whatever, and we just don't want the evening to end. We don't want to have to go home, right? That's the Creator looking at us saying, I just don't want this date to end. Don't stop talking. And many times those challenges, at least according to the Kabbalists, come to us because we've stopped talking. We've stopped coming over to the Creator's house for those all-night jam sessions, the margaritas and mimosas and and chit chat. And those challenges come to remind us, to awaken us to that conversation, that hotline that's always open, that's meant to be used. What David is saying about asking for help every little moment, anywhere there isn't clarity, anywhere there's a bit of a challenge, by keeping that conversation line open, by having those all-night talk sessions at the Creator's house, we're actually preventing the need for those unnecessary challenges. Now, right now, the whole world is going through a series of challenges, and I think that speaks volumes to this concept as well,
Sure.
is that maybe we as a species have stopped chatting with the Creator, have stopped coming over to the Creator's house after a long day at work and discussing what happened and asking for help and getting advice. That now I'm sure, based upon just my social media feed, all the prayer requests, please pray for this person, please pray for the city of, please pray for so-and-so's mom. There is a lot more chit-chat with the Creator than probably there has been in decades. And we have the ability to keep that line open and not need the challenge or the discomfort or the lack or the fear to open it up for us.
And that praying for others is a whole separate topic, by the way. We're talking about playing more offense here. We're talking about making sure that you plug yourself into an energy frequency to avoid all forms of chaos, to avoid disease, to avoid painful situations. That's the type of prayer we're talking about now. And every stub of the toe, every uncomfortable situation, every bruise, every time something just doesn't go your way, every time your phone falls out of your hand and you hear a crack, or not even a crack. It says that every time you reach into your pocket and you're looking for, let's say, $1 and all you find is a quarter, all of those things are signs that you need to talk to the Creator more, that you need to have a bigger conversation. And the other thing I wanted to say is we don't realize how powerful our soul is as a GPS. And when we're talking to the Creator, which is talking to our soul, essentially, it's the same thing. It's so powerful. It is literally like turning on your Waze, turning on your GPS, and it's about getting to your destination as fast as possible. That's why we do it. We don't do it because we're religious. Who cares about that? We don't do it because we have something to say or some kind of statement we want to make. We're trying to please God. Nobody cares about that either. We do it because we're very practical and we want to be efficient and we want to have good lives and we want to get there as fast as possible. So if I walk into a restaurant and I'll even pray, send me the right waiter, make sure the right chef, please help me get the right table, because all of those things matter. All of those things matter, and we think maybe they don't matter. Some people think, well, I'm wasting God's time asking for that kind of stuff.
Or my requests are too petty.
Yeah, no. Oh, there's no such thing. In fact, the pettier the request,
right.
It's so important, because I have sometimes students who I say, give me updates, tell me what's going on.
I don't want to bother you.
I don't want to bother you. But what they don't realize is when they're not checking in, it actually takes up more of my time later to undo some chaos or have to you know what I'm saying? Have you ever had that? Sometimes it's easier just to check in petty ways.
I'm working with someone. I have a student who's literally texting me at night, every night, with a specific assignment that I gave her. And I love it. I am sure it's very hard for her it was very hard. I don't want to bother you.
Right.
But the beauty of that, by asking for help, by bringing another person into the process, actually brings more light to what she's working on.
And it makes our job easier. When people check in, obviously in a balanced way, not in a crazy blowing up your phone at 2 a.m. type way.
Right.
But when someone checks in a balanced way, it actually makes our job so much easier.
Usually it's for the people who it's hard for them to do that. It's not
that's
for
right. I don't want to bother you. That's what
right.
everybody says. I don't want to bother you with this. So Creator, you should bother the Creator. I think that's really what the message is. Creator wants you to bother him all day long. And that's his love language. Creator's love language is bother me. Bother me all day long. Ask. If I don't want to answer, that's what I tell my students too. Look, if I'm busy, I'm just not going to answer you.
Right.
Let me choose.
Give me the free will.
Give me the free will to not choose. To decide.
You bring up something really important that we didn't talk about in the car that I think I want to bring up for just 30 seconds is one of the things that's essential to prayer is action. Mm-hmm. The Kabbalists teach you cannot sit on your couch and pray for money or pray for a soulmate, or you can, I guess, it's just not going to work. pray to be healthy with the cigarette dangling from your mouth and the bottles of whiskey and the
I
pizza
pray that
boxes.
the cigarette doesn't kill me.
Right. That's it. The key. What's the magic sauce in prayer is following it up with an action.
Right.
Sometimes that action is, for example, I'm not saying, pray for your soulmate and run out to your local bar. That's not necessarily the action, but there has to be some use of that download that you're asking for. I'm willing to make the effort. I need your help, but I'm willing to make the effort. And so if you're in a financial position that's difficult for you, there is no limit to the amount of times you should ask for help or to shift the situation or for the support that you need, as long as you are also taking action in changing your
Beautiful
situation.
Beautiful.
And so part of the, let's say, for example, somebody who's not well, as I'm sure the case is with a lot of people out there today, most of us probably. What is the action to follow up when you're asking for someone to be healed?
Say that again?
A person is in the hospital.
Yes.
I'm praying for them to be healthy.
Yes.
What's the follow-up action to that?
I don't know.
Pop quiz, David.
I don't know. What would you say?
I would say that there needs to be, for example, maybe you can think of something else, but to go out to do some action of sharing something against my comfort zone that will reveal light and dedicate that light to that
it's interesting
person.
because I was thinking that's one way of doing it. I was also thinking.
No, I'm asking you so that we present other sides.
No, that's a good side. The other side I was thinking is to do a self-evaluation of myself, because then I can unlock some light that I can send there, right? So if I take responsibility for something negative I did, totally unrelated to the person in the hospital, I can then take that spark of light that I've now recaptured and send it to the person in the hospital.
Exactly.
It's all energy.
But many times I've had conversations with my teacher talking about something, and the answer is always, okay, so what are you willing to do for it? Right? You want to be you want to have more influence, share more, do more in the world. What are you willing to do to have that right or that responsibility given to you? You want to. It can be any blessing that we're trying to attract.
Sure. We promised scripted prayer. Just
scripted
really
prayer.
quickly. It's funny because I have 6 questions here, good questions, and I thought we would answer them. Maybe we still can, but scripted prayer, there's so many, and there's so many levels of it. I think for everybody, the staples of scripted prayer that have been handed down since the time of Abraham, 5,000 years ago, that are delineated in the Bible, that were used by all religions, these are tools that you could say daily were used by Jesus himself. So it covers all the spectrum of scripted prayer from all religions. The 3 I would say for every student to tap into in some way is the Zohar, a connection to the Zohar, the actual book that is the delineation of all the wisdom of Kabbalah. It's the soul of the Bible itself, of the Old Testament. The Zohar has power simply by owning the Zohar, holding the Zohar, scanning the Aramaic letters. You don't need to know Aramaic, just scanning, because the eyes are the windows of the soul. Scanning the Zohar brings light, brings healing, brings protection. And then, of course, studying it, which is harder for people, but we have the English translation, so you could study it in English. We have Spanish, also a Spanish translation. Studying it would be the next level. So for everyone who doesn't have a Zohar, that is a very powerful way to connect. A physical Zohar is more powerful than an online Zohar, but we have the Zohar.com where you can also connect to the Zohar online. We were giving away free Zohars a couple of weeks ago. I hope people took advantage of that. We still are?
Yeah.
So you could still actually get a full set of English Zohar for free, if I'm not mistaken, because we raised money. People have donated money to give you a free Zohar. If you would like to donate money to give a free Zohar, you could do that as well. So Zohar is number 1. Number 2, the 72 names of God.
That's a good entry level.
It's probably the most entry. 72 names. It's the secret codes that Moses used to split the Red Sea. Metaphorically for us, every time we have major challenges, every time we need additional support from the upper worlds, we got a major blockage, something's tough for us, people are asking questions. What if it's just hard? What if I can't keep my energy going? This show is inspiring, but I'm going to forget about it in a couple hours. So 72 Names of God is a way to break through any challenge. There's the 72 Names of God book. That is phenomenal. You can get it from our bookstore. You can get it from Amazon.
So what I was going to say is that we have a book. in our bookstore called Dialing God.
Oh, that's right.
The Dialing God book, it's
got everything.
It's got everything, not everything, but almost, if you're looking to bring more of that systematic, we call it scripted. If you're looking to bring more of that scripted prayer into your life, things to say in the morning, things to say before you go to sleep. The most powerful Kabbalistic meditation is also in there. That's what David was going to say next. The Ana B'Koach.
Ana B'Koach is the third one. Ana B'Koach, also known as the 42 names of God.
So that it's a compilation of the most basic ritual or scripted prayers from the Kabbalists. I think the most important thing to remember, even when we talk about that, if you look at some of those prayers, it is about appreciation, or it is about asking, or it is about that self-reflection. Those sequences of letters awaken energy. So it's not about, if you don't say these words in this order, God's not listening.
Right.
It's using these words in these orders, open up more pathways. Like we talked about before, being the bridge between the upper and lower worlds. That's the purpose of prayer according to Kabbalah, to bring more light, to activate more of those specific frequencies in our lives in a proactive way, right? We're very good at praying when we're needy and desperate. The Kabbalists say you want to have even more impact, do it when you're not needy and desperate.
How powerful is routine? I think for 20 years since I've been studying Kabbalah, I was given these 3 tools. I've used them every day. Sometimes I have zero mood or energy to use them. Sometimes I'm like, yeah, I'm just going to skip it today, whatever. But we've learned that as long as you have a routine and you stick to that routine, that becomes your foundation of your spirituality. When you commit to the routine commits to you. So that's what I love about the scripted part of it, because the unscripted part, which is the first 3 things that we shared, that's great. You can use it all the time. But we're creatures that follow our moods. And sometimes we'll do it, sometimes we won't. But if you have a routine, a system that you're committed to, this is your anchor. And that's why the scripted part is so powerful. Whether you understand it, your logic gets it, or don't, whatever, you just got to keep a little structure, a mini structure. And those are the 3 we say to start with.
I'm being reminded here by somebody in the comments that both the 72 Names of God and Dialing God, the book, are available as an app.
Oh,
so if you want to download it on your phone.
And the Zohar.
There's also a Zohar app.
It's all, oh gosh, there's so many things. I wish we could make it more simple for people. Reach out to your teacher, go to Kabbalah.com, or you can put it in the comments here in the Facebook chat. We'll also answer it. Or you can email. What's our email?
energyboost@Kabbalah.com.
Yeah.
We've been getting great emails, great questions, great suggestions for topics, even guests. So keep it coming.
And before you close the show, I did want to plug, we haven't done it in a while. Every time we do, registrations go up, and I'm so thankful for that, for Kabbalah1.com. Kabbalah1.com. We can put the link there. It is the most powerful way for new people to study Kabbalah. It's also so powerful for existing students.
It has done wonders for my longtime students who needed a boost, a little refresher. Absolutely.
The concepts are, it's unlike any Kabbalah one you've ever taken, the one online. The curriculum is also totally different, and it's very advanced. We have a discount code for all of our listeners. It's 30% off with code WEB30. So you go to Kabbalah1.com. WEB30 gives you 30% off.
Only for our listeners.
Only if you're not our listener, don't use the code.
Don't use the coupon. So on that note, we want to thank you for joining us again. If you're listening on Facebook, you can continue to post in the comments your questions, your feedback. Also on IGTV and YouTube, we look at those periodically to answer your questions, to get back to you, and we cannot express enough gratitude and appreciation for all the sharing that you guys are doing. We're also available on every podcast platform. So if you are listening on the podcast, you can send us questions to energyboost@Kabbalah.com. You can also rate and review us and help us reach more people that way. So we appreciate listening, sharing, being a part of everything that we do. And we will see you next week on the Weekly Energy Boost.